Welcome to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, brought to you by Your One Self. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill. And as always, my co-host is Andrew Moshokumu. Together, we'll explore the transformative journey of self-discovery and holistic integration. Our purpose is to provide ancient wisdom and evidence-based methods, allowing you to merge your mind, body, and spirit into a harmonious whole. Alongside us today, we are blessed to have Tara O'Neill, a clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, and yoga instructor. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. We are live and in living color. Welcome to episode 111 of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the path to a more balanced, fulfilling life. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill. And today we're diving into the transformative world of hypnotherapy.
Hello, how are you?
And that, of course, is our resident expert and frequent guest, hypnotherapist Tara O'Neill. Tara, this is your moment to shine. We've been really all leading up to this.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to share all about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and the benefits to our fantastic listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you are very multifaceted in your various areas of expertise, but recently this has really become a focal point for you. And, before we kind of get started with, defining hypnotherapy and discussing its benefits and some of the tradition, misconceptions and kind of talking to how it can help our listeners, followers. Do you want to discuss your origin story with hypnotherapy?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it has been a perfectly aligned journey. That being said, sometimes I wonder what would happen if I found hypnotherapy at the start of my journey. May have saved myself a few years of gallivanting around the globe and study dozens of different modalities, but it was a beautiful journey and I wouldn't change it for the world. Though hypnotherapy and understanding the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind was a game changer for sure. Absolutely. I think there was a disconnect between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, which we'll get into a bit. And once you have this awakening of understanding what lies underneath the hood, behind the curtain, as we like to say, it is so empowering, right? It is so beautiful to be able to have this sense of knowing, this sense of understanding, this whole new outlook on life, a different perspective, to be able to have the power to change your perspective, to it's like learning how to be a mechanic on your car, right? You don't have to just take it to get it fixed, right? You can actually open up the hood and get your hands dirty and do it how you want to, in a way, right? Like, all right, I'm going in there and I'm gonna fix it this way. Sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but it's the trial and error. So that's the best analogy I could use. So I discovered hypnosis for myself in my personal journey about 6 years ago, and I have been working with clients using this mechanism to change their habits, their beliefs, their perspective, their life, their health, their wealth, their relationships, all of it, right? So once we understand the ins and the outs of the subconscious and the unconscious, the sky's the limit.
Excellent. Yeah, there's so many places to go from there. I guess first question is a little bit of cleanup and just kind of squashing some of the common misconceptions people might have. A lot of time when normies hear the word, and I grew myself alongside many of them, or at least I have been alongside many of them in the not too distant past. They think of performances, stage shows, mind control, pocket watches that are vacillating in front of someone's eyes. But hypnotherapy is something quite different than that. So can you kind of, there may be slight truths there, but for the most part, that kind of caricature is just not accurate. So can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think of the word, let's break it down to hypnosis. So
Okay.
hypnosis is going to be the umbrella, the overall process. And hypnotherapy is using
Mm,
hypnosis in a therapeutic way. So we're
okay.
using it intentionally to create greater well-being. And so with hypnosis, it can be stage hypnosis, it can be for entertainment, it can be in storytelling, in the media, in movies, and it can have a bad rap, so to
Mm,
speak, in that the mind control, or I'm gonna get you to do something that that is definitely not what we're doing in hypnotherapy, where we're empowering the person to understand themselves better. So there's nothing that they have to fear when working with. It's just like any other practitioner, though. I would suggest that you feel comfortable with the person that you're working with, of course. But yes, to dispel any myths, hypnosis is not something that some people can do and some people can't do. It is brainwave state, and it is a trance, and we are and a trance is a focused state of attention. So we are in trance throughout various times in the day. If you've
mhm.
ever driven home, I'm not sure if you've ever had this experience, but I have. I've driven home, and I arrive in the driveway, and I'm like, oh wow, that was fast, or I don't even really remember the whole drive home. How
Mm,
you're in the zone, so to speak. That's a
mhm,
trance, right? So you couldn't maybe relay exactly every moment to moment because your conscious mind was not there the entire time, right?
mm,
You went into your deeper parts of your mind, your subconscious mind. And that can be very healing. Another time you might be in a trance is if you're engrossed in a really good book, all right? And the whole world outside of you is not really that important because your focus and attention is in the book,
mhm,
and maybe you have imagery, maybe you're going on a journey with the characters in the book, or you're really involved in whatever the content is, right? That is a trance. We're watching a movie. Also, the feeling that you have if you've ever fallen asleep with the TV on. You can hear the TV, you know it's on, but you don't know exactly what they're saying, right? And
mm,
so why I'm bringing up these examples is I would like people to actually take inventory of their day, right? Because they say that we are actually only in our conscious mind maybe 5 to 10% of the day. So that means
mhm,
90% of the time we're running on autopilot or from our subconscious or unconscious wiring or programming, right? And what's even more fascinating is that programming is usually before the age of 7 years old. So we have all of our knowns of the world and
yeah,
our reality often
mhm,
are from pre-7. I mean, the very foundational fundamental things. And
mhm,
so I love going on this journey with clients because sometimes they're like, wow, I didn't even realize that's why I like this, or that's why I do that. And
mhm,
we bring it back to something that maybe happened in childhood, and I'm not saying good, bad, or anything like that. Like I said, I just find it fascinating and absolutely wonderful. And so I digress. But ultimately, there's nothing dangerous, and there is self hypnosis, right? So while you could go to a practitioner and work one on one with them, especially in the beginning, that's easier. Ultimately, I want my clients to be able to do this on their own. So, like a meditation, you can practice self hypnosis at home on your own once you learn the technique.
all right. Yeah, a lot to unpack there. A question that So a lot of times we hear about the theta state or theta waves. Can you kind of give a little brief description? That's, I believe, a place that, a goal, a destination when you're putting someone under hypnosis. And why is that a place that, you know, the hypnotherapists want their clients to end up in?
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you. So if you think of most of our day, we're in a beta brainwave state, and that's good. I mean, you're being active. You're probably stimulating different parts of your mind.
Hmm.
So when we're doing hypnosis, so you're very much in your conscious mind, very much in your analytical, logical mind, can be very useful, right? Really great for decision making and problem solving. Though we don't want to live there all of the time. When we go into other brainwave states, the next one being alpha. So alpha, you can think of as putting your feet up, right? You're starting to relax. You're just in that nice, like starting to feel good
Hmm.
state. And I'll give you some tips later how to enter those a few ways to enter those states easily on your own. Viewers at home or listeners at home can do it.
Excellent.
So when we're in the alpha, we are starting to get out of our problem solving mind, out of the beta,
Hmm.
and we start to become a little bit more suggestible, right? So our defenses are a little bit taken down, and it can be a very open and easily learning receptive mode. And then there's also theta. So in the hypnosis process, usually we're in an alpha, theta, and back again. Theta is a beautiful state. It is this really healing state. So it's now we're telling the body that it's safe to relax, to restore, to rejuvenate, to rest, and that it can go back to cleaning up the system to get to homeostasis, to an equilibrium. And so in the alpha and theta state, we're very open to suggestion. We're bypassing a lot of the
Hmm.
patterns or behaviors or habits
Hmm.
that might be, when we say willpower, that's we want to get past underneath that layer. So if we're thinking of the iceberg, I haven't used the iceberg metaphor yet, but you could think of the mind as an iceberg. Your conscious mind is
Hmm.
the tip that's above the water, right? And
Hmm.
that's going to be, like I was saying, helpful with logic, decision making, problem solving, tasks,
Hmm.
thoughts. Below that is the subconscious, and that
Hmm.
is where your memories lie, your emotions, your habits, your beliefs, right? And so
And this
when
is where you get that 90-10
yes,
percentage ratio that you were talking about earlier, because on an
absolutely.
iceberg, it's only a small portion that's actually above the surface. Most of it lies underneath the water that's in our, maybe we're not presenting that or actively engaged with that without your help, right? But there's so much under the water that, has so much potential, right, to help people.
Absolutely, absolutely, and not just mentally, also our physiological systems are running.
Mm,
So we don't like our heart, right? We're not like that's something that's happens automatically, right? Our breath,
sure.
our heart, like we don't have to tell our body, oh, do this, do this, do this, right? Thank goodness, right? So a lot of that's happening, but the beauty of
Hmm.
that is it's also really wonderful helping assist in physiological or health issues. It can be
Okay.
really supportive. It can be helpful for pain management, for example,
Mm.
moving the prana and the chi throughout the body if there's any blockages or stuck, anything stuck within the physical body. So yes, so much wonderful stuff can happen when we access the bottom of the iceberg. That's your alpha, that's your beta brainwave state.
Okay. What about the lasting, you know, just quickly, you said the trance, you don't remember it, the drive when you're coming home from work, it's late, or you're getting into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast and you don't even notice the miles flowing by you. you're into, album that you're really engrossed in, and then suddenly you're right around the corner from home, and it's like, what just happened? Like you said, we've all, many of us have had that experience. You can't really describe what had happened the past 20, 30, however many minutes. Can you, when you get into these states and have experiences, are they long lasting? Do you remember the stuff that's happening, or is it kind of fleeting, like that trance that you were talking about earlier?
Is the experience of the hypnosis,
Yeah, well, I guess that's a good question. What do clients remember from those sessions,
Sure, sure. Yeah, there are a lot of times you remember the most of the set. Most people remember most of the session, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you might say, "Oh, I fell asleep," right? Though it's actually not sleep. It's the state right before sleep. That's that healing state that we want to be in, where you're rebuilding, you're repairing, you're reprogramming, rewiring. That's the magical state that we want to enter positive suggestions, new habits,
Mm,
right? We want to eliminate anything that's not working from us. Anything from the past that we're holding on to that we haven't processed that we don't need anymore. So, but sometimes I like to liken it to a massage. If anyone's ever had a massage before, like there could be like those moments where it's like, oh, did I fall asleep? Or like the time is a little bit distorted. Like you
mm,
remember most of it, but it might
mm-hmm.
not be like as each moment might not be wedged into your mind, right?
Right.
So yes, I would say, you're awake and you can hear, but it does sometimes sound, you'll say like, oh, it sounds like you're really far away, or I couldn't quite grasp what words what words you were saying, and that's normal. The conscious mind wants to know, like, how does it work? Why is this, and that's the beauty of the conscious mind. But it can step aside, right? So that the other parts of the mind, the parts that that respond well to images, symbols, signs,
Mm, mm,
emotions, feelings, your creative imagination. Like we get a chance to engage with our creative imagination. We all have a creative side. Sometimes we might be down on ourselves, like, oh, I'm not creative, or I never got that, or but you have it, and we can strengthen it like a muscle.
mm.
So we want to activate the creative side. So if you're thinking in terms of like very loosely, like right brain and left brain, you can use that model. It's a lot more intricate than that. Neurobiology will tell us, but
Sure.
left brain being very analytical, very science,
Mm,
and logic. And then right brain, often we think of the creative side, right? The
right.
growth mindset, the flourishing, the newness, the create, expand. We in our society, our beautiful society, it's wonderful. Like we are very intelligent, but sometimes it's a little left brain heavy in that,
Mm,
or analyzing, wanting control, wanting to figure things out, where we want to bring in some of the right brain and bring in more on the creativity, the music, the art, the creative writing, the
mm-hmm.
emotion, the flow. So we
Yeah.
want a balance. And that's what one of the beautiful things that hypnosis does universally is it brings that balance back in. So we're not like too left brain heavy. We get a break from that, which in turn actually helps when we get the full brain cohesion. It's like magic.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes it hopeful for potential clients is that it's all there. It's just you just kind of need a little help unlocking it. So it's kind of all within you. You just need a little guidance, and it can make it that much more impactful knowing that it's all kind of within you, and you just have to be able to um, kind of scratch the surface, so to speak, and then there's so much potential for growth and like that harmony that you were saying, creating. It's pretty amazing. You mentioned pattern, which is another one of our bingo words, because there's a lot of, you and I both kind of think about how people have different models and different patterns they approach their days and the world and their life with. And can you talk about kind of how you can utilize hypnotherapy, and you do utilize it to reprogram and reshape those patterns and kind of rewire some things that maybe are deeper, but that are kind of affecting the surface?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So patterns can be fabulous
Mhm.
in helping us, especially with routine and ritual and structure. Um, though sometimes we hold on to old patterns that maybe aren't working for us anymore, and we want to make sure that throughout life, growing up, we have coping mechanisms and patterns that make us feel safe,
Mhm.
and we can take them with us throughout adulthood. So yes,
Mhm.
so if you were saying model, if you think of, everyone has a different model of the world, right?
Mhm.
Everyone has a
Mhm.
different perspective. Of reality is subjective in that way that no two experiences are the same. And so, what hypnosis is really doing ultimately, and where change happens, is in your perspective shift, right? So, when you change your perspective, the whole world changes, right? The world doesn't change after a hypnosis session. In essence, everything externally doesn't change, right? So you change, and all of a sudden you see things in a different way, in a different light.
Mhm.
And then that's where like those aha moments happen, right?
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
these awakenings that we are speaking of a lot in our society is really, that's it. It's like, it is an awakening. Like, I didn't realize that I had just this really small lens that I was seeing the world through. Oh my gosh, I took these glasses off, and all of a sudden I just started seeing the world in a whole new way. And so I'm always
Mhm.
encouraging people to take the glasses off, look at the world in a different lens. Like, do you need to get, like, think of when if you ever had eyeglasses, like, do you need to adjust the prescription, right? Do we need to change the lens in which we're seeing things? So yes, so perspective shifts are going to be gold, right? When we see things, when we have the power to see things in a different way, it's a game changer.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. To my excellent point that I was making
Yeah,
earlier about
yeah,
how I
great.
like how, it's personal, it's within everyone to kind of fix these patterns because it's coming from within, and it's just we haven't been maybe looking in the right place, or we haven't been, it's how we thinking about it the right way, or just unlocking two things. One is patterns, but consistency might be even a more prevalent bingo word for us. And if you think about, as you were saying, a lot of these patterns being established before you're 7. That's one of the reasons why we continue to harp on consistency, because if you have to counteract a lot of these patterns that have kind of been calcifying, and you're strengthening those patterns over and over again, and those aren't the ones that are going to um, kind of coalesce with and take you into that your one self, mind, body, and spirit, place that you're destined to go to. You have to be consistent, right? You have to do a lot of this is not just for hypnotherapy, but it was just on the forefront of my mind when you were talking about having, patterns are great and models can be great, but they're not always um, right for us, in the current moment that we're in, and they're not always, I hate to use a word such as so flippant as good, but the patterns aren't always good,
Yeah,
right? So if you
yeah.
have
Right.
experienced either some kind of trauma, or you weren't, um, you know, properly nourished with the correct experience early on, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So that's why we're always really focusing on consistency, because just once, twice, three times is often not going to break that old rewiring or transform the pattern into something new. So it's just good to always kind of remind folks of that. Well, another thing that I really do like about hypnotherapy is how natural, and if you get someone that you trust, it can really be pretty natural and pretty effortless. There's not a lot to break through. Once you get there, there's work to be done for sure. And I just did speak about, the need for consistency to kind of keep that rewiring going and strengthen it. But getting to that point is pretty effortless, and it's so natural because you don't need any externalities other than a great guide. You don't need to take anything. You don't necessarily yourself have to do anything that you haven't done for your whole life. So can you talk about how it's maybe similar to meditation or some other things that we've spoken about, and how it's pretty accessible for people to it's too overwhelming. I'm not somebody that can be hypnotized, go into hypnosis, or I'm too my brain's just not like work like that, right? I'm too left brain, they might think,
Oh,
right? I'm
sure,
not going to be
sure.
able to get there. So can you talk about maybe some past experience with clients that were resistant, or how kind of easy it can be to get to the places that we're looking to go?
Absolutely, absolutely. So many great points to touch on. Thank you. Yes, I loved also when you were saying unleash, right? It's like we have it in here, we just gotta unleash it. But then, yeah, so I know I maybe buttering it up a little bit. It's like, oh, you just go to hypnosis and then everything's good. The consistency is really important. So I always bring my clients the recordings to listen to in between sessions, because we really want to strengthen and rewire those new neural networks
Hmm.
that we're creating through neuroplasticity. So yeah, so it's normal for people to think, oh, I'm set in my ways, I can't change. Like, I've been doing it for so long, and so, but we know now, and only within like maybe the last 30 years or so, we've had
Hmm.
we have this research on neuroplasticity, right? With the
Yeah.
brain can change, like
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this. Like the brain, we know beyond a doubt that the brain can change no matter what age you are. It's plastic, it's
Hmm.
malleable. Like, that's
Hmm.
so amazing. Yay. So we
Absolutely.
have this, like you said, we have this tool. Like, it's not a drug, it's not like it, you don't need anything external to you consistently, in the sense of like, yes, it can be natural. Now, that being said, if we are working with decades of old patterns, old beliefs, old limiting beliefs, we're gonna need to like peel back some layers, some onion layers, right? So it's like, think of strengthening the muscle like I talked in meditation. You liken it to working out, right? If we're gonna run a marathon, like, we're not gonna just go for a jog and then do 26.2, right, miles to run the marathon. We
Hmm.
have to work up to that.
Hmm.
We have to give the body the resources it needs in order to optimize it. I mean, along the journey, there's going to be so many gems and discoveries and unfoldings that are
Hmm.
wonderful. But yes, consistency is going to be key here. And to go along with, one of the things we believe, at your one's self, and talk to a lot and journey to your best self, is the body and the mind and the spirit connection, and the ability that the body naturally has the wisdom to heal itself. And what we're doing through hypnosis and similar modalities is setting up the system so that it can heal itself. It can find its homeostasis. It can purge from all of the lifelong stressors. So I would say, like meditation, and like other habits, you know, try it for a month, right? Listen to a hypnosis recording, learn self-hypnosis, go to a practitioner and log your benefits, or log the progress, so
Hmm.
you see the benefits of it. And I know you had a couple of questions in there. And so, yes, because I could just go on and on all day long, but
Sure.
try it for a month. And so I won't work with clients for one session, because I mean, that's nice and they'll feel good, but
Hmm.
we need, it's not just the one jog and then the marathon and you're good for life, right?
Yeah, that's not going to bring any sustainable change that we're looking for ultimately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it is important to remind viewers that you can absolutely change 100%. So, and it's also, but I also want people to know that it's normal to be apprehensive. I remember like thinking, the first thing I thought was like, well, I really had to experience it to understand it or to believe it myself. So a couple like examples, the professionals of the world that are very left-brained, the executives, the doctors, the lawyers, the business owners will come in a little bit skeptical, and maybe that's what makes them so wonderful at what they do. And they unanimously afterwards will say, "Wow, I really didn't think that was possible, or that was going to happen, or I was going to be able to experience that." And so, the mind does protect us, and that logical part is a gem, and it's
Mm,
beautiful. But, when I say to people that are skeptical, I say that's completely normal. But be your own guinea pig. Like do the experiment on yourself, right? And do it for a month. If after a month you don't see any changes, no harm, no foul.
okay, excellent. There was a lot in there that really is intriguing to people, and I'm just getting ready to sign up if you know someone with the first session. But what about some more, is there some scientific data that's been accumulating? I know that the neuroplasticity kind of relates to a lot of Carol Dweck stuff that I have come
Mhm.
across in school with growth mindset and things like that. But what about the support for hypnotherapy in that kind of left-brained scientific community? Are we seeing more of
Yeah, so absolutely. There is a fabulous psychiatrist out of Stanford, David Spiegel, and he has been using hypnosis for, I want to say something like 35 years. And
that?
he's been conducting research studies on the benefits of it.
Wow.
He has an app out as well, so you can try it out on your own at home. And he can talk all day about the amazing transformations that he's seen. So yes, it's out there now. The science is there. Andrew, one of my favorite neuroscientists, Andrew Huberman from the Huberman Lab, is a huge proponent of it. He talks about exactly how it works, and the benefits of it are there, anecdotal and scientific. So for those that want to do a little research first, again, like absolutely, make an informed decision. Down in University of California, San Diego, where I was certified in the light program, they've been doing research for the last
Mm,
11 years, and
wow.
they have some absolutely fascinating transformational healing stories, and again documented, and because in the past it was a little bit harder to get proper studies because the changes and transformation are really very rapid, as
Mm,
opposed to some more traditional left brain like talk therapy, cognitive therapy. That has a place absolutely and can have terrific benefits. But generally, I will get clients that have been through more typical or common modalities that want to go further. They want to go deeper
hmm
into the parts of their deeper mind and their subconscious.
Awesome. Um, all right. Well, any that could you maybe just walk us through kind of what a typical session would be like with a hypnotherapist, and then just kind of to paint a picture and to give people an idea that it's not dangerous, or it's not something that they have to really be wary of, and then maybe we could talk about how they could try some of these adjacent strategies or techniques that'll kind of get them into certain states of mind that we'd be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so let's take something that maybe is a little more well known. Smoking. And let's review. So the subconscious is where we have our memories, our emotions, our habits, and our beliefs, right? So people will often come to hypnosis for smoking because they have tried almost everything else. And anyone that's had a habit knows that willpower alone is usually not going to cut it. Sometimes, and that's great for people that can, but most of the time, people that have a habit, they need something a little bit more, right? So that's our conscious mind is saying, like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But yet, how come then the next day where we find ourselves back doing that habit, right? Well, that's because we're not relaying the message to our subconscious mind that we no longer want to do that habit. So we have to get the message across. And so through hypnosis, that's the mechanism to get the message to our subconscious that we want to change that habit. And so with smoking, the reason that people might not be able to change that is because there's something deeper that says that I need this is safe, this is helping, this is good. So there's a conflict between the subconscious and the conscious mind, and we want everybody to get along, right? So we want to open up the conversation, negotiate it, and change the behavior. So smoking is a really great one that people are very open to. And then once they see that, like, oh, wow, I stopped smoking, or I stopped drinking, or I stopped eating a certain way, then they're like, oh, wait, can I also do this? Or can I also do this and this and this? And so it really gives them like a sense of like agency to what, like seeing is believing, right? It's like, well, that's something concrete we can see, we can track that progress, as opposed to, somebody saying that they maybe have more love in their life. Like that's obviously a very, very important thing that most people want, but it's a little bit harder to document in a research study. So, we often will start with tangible habits that you can see. Seeing is believing. And then go into the others, the more anecdotal type experiences, transformations.
That's amazing. I guess one last one for me, just as a little bit of an overview. Some people may have this misconception, or meditation versus hypnosis, differences and similarities. I think maybe from the outside looking in, they do have some things in common, but from perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like meditation is more something that you are kind of taking control, and hypnosis is a little bit more of like you're letting go of control and you're kind of letting things develop. But obviously there's huge benefits and game changing benefits to both. You want to talk a little bit about the differences, the similarities? One's better than the other one. They have the same, they have an overlap. There's no room for both in this world. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And so hypnosis falls under the meditation umbrella. Right? So, all hypnosis is meditation, not all meditation is hypnosis, so to speak. So we want to think of it as accessing similar brainwave states. But yes, you're right in the sense of like the intentionality, and depending how we approach the practices will vary a little bit. So you can absolutely have both. I would say one of the things I love about hypnosis is that it's very intentional. Not that meditation can't be, but in the sense of we identify something, usually something specific, is also can be more active and more of visualization.
Mhm.
So it really would it would really depend on what the person is needing, and their lifestyle, right? So meditation is good, I think, to have for overall, like in your everyday life, if possible. And that being like, your connection to, you can go back and listen to our meditation, or some of our points on meditation from previous episodes. We
Mhm.
can talk about that all day long. When I'm working with clients, often I will say they'll have to listen to a recording of the hypnosis. That's about 20 minutes a day. And that can be a replacement for their meditation if they absolutely have no other time to do that. And it can take you to that state faster, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like, spending a decade of learning how to meditate, by focusing on the breath, a bit of a more Zen meditation can get you there, within a very fast period of time. Also using things like binaural beats, your set and setting, can get you into those theta states that are really helpful and healing. Now, just really quickly back to like the intentionality with hypnosis, you can take something, say a habit that you're really wanting to replace, and we can rewire that specific habit or pattern or belief very easily when we identify it and we replace it. And I have a technique that I use, that's very effective and efficient. With meditation, if you are just going to meditate on it, it's sometimes a little too vague, and not narrow enough. So I like to kind of really pinpoint and accelerate that, because you can meditate just, oh, I want to clear my mind, but that's not necessarily going to change the neural pathways. And we really want to create new neural pathways and new neural connections and networks. And to do that, I think hypnosis is a bit more transformational, in terms of seeing fast progress.
Excellent. That was a really clear and concise summary and very appreciated. All right. I guess in closing, do you want to just summarize like some of the benefits that you've seen with past clients, and some of the benefits that future clients are going to expect your audio recordings and your sessions and all that Tara O'Neill has to offer?
Yeah, yeah, and so I would say, and this is what I would like to give, some homework, so to speak,
Okay.
for listeners. Um, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, getting rid of a habit, uh, well, kind of easy, right? Like getting rid of something, a pattern, a habit, a belief, is
Mm,
actually relatively simple. Uh,
mm,
the challenge comes when we get to the point where we have to create the life that we want. We have to figure out what it is that we actually really do want, right? So I find that often, and that's the question where clients are like, well, I don't know. I know what I don't want, but I'm not sure what I do want. And
mm,
so what I'm going to challenge our listeners is to, okay, well, so, imagine you had a clean slate, right? And for every time we integrated mind, body, spirit, like, what would you want? And you had all the things you needed,
mm,
all the money in the world, all the resources. Like, what would you do then? And so sometimes that's where we have to do a little soul searching, and discover, okay, well, wow, I didn't realize that I'm this powerful, infinite creator. What do I want to do now? So
mm,
that's what I would say is that's start there, almost like it's kind of like we're going backwards. Like figure out what you might do there, and then all the other stuff we can just get out of the way. Just
excellent. All right. Great way to wrap things up for today. Tara O'Neill, thank you so much again for your insights today, especially this episode right in your wheelhouse. And I think, you've clearly shown us how hypnotherapy offers a very powerful path to healing and a transformation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You got it. And to all of our welcome viewers and listeners and followers, if, and I know you are intrigued by what you heard today, I want you to log on to TaraO'Neill.com, YourOneSelf.com, and explore further how hypnotherapy can help you out. There's a lot of resources that we have, and the ecosystem is always building and growing. Don't forget, of course, to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights and some visual resources and a ton of stuff that is going to help you out on your journey. So, as always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill. Thank you for tuning in to Journey to Your Best Self podcast. Wishing you peace, love, and self-discovery.